Our presentation today is something that should be fascinating. It's called Trees That Feed. It's the Trees That Feed Foundation. Our speakers are Mary and Mike McLaughlin. They're the co-founders. Mary was born in Jamaica. She was educated there and professionally trained as a geologist. She worked with the Jamaican Geological Survey and later with oil companies in Dallas, Texas. We'll have to talk about that. I lived there for 33 years. Who were the culprits you were with? Her husband, Mike, is also from Jamaica. He was professionally trained as an actuary. He was a consulting partner with Ernst & Young and Deloitte and served as executive VP and chief actuary of AXA Financial in New York. Mike was president of the Society of Actuaries and a member of the executive committee of the International Actuarial Association. In 2008, Mary and her husband, Mike, founded Trees That Feed Foundation with the mission of planting trees to feed people, create jobs, and benefit the environment. So please welcome Mike and Mary McLaughlin.
Thank you, Bob, for that kind introduction. I had to test the on-off switch on my microphone. Hopefully it's working. This is a terrific turnout. Thank you so much for showing up. We hope that you find it fascinating. So I'll give a little background. We have a short video, and then Mary will talk. She'll correct all the things that I say that are wrong. And so Mary and I have been married for 52 years. It's working out so far. And we might even make 53. A couple of quick words of thank you, though, before we dive into it. So we want to thank Jill Becker. She's here somewhere. Thank you. She's going to help our audio visual, Bob Dauber, with a nice introduction, and Susan Gatto. So Susan and her husband, Dom, very old friends. So she actually was the driving force of putting all this together. So thanks very much, Susan. So how did this all begin? So I'll give you a few minutes, then Mary will talk, then we'll do a video, then Mary will talk. So the secret to being married for 52 years is to bring your wife coffee first thing in the morning. So I wake up, I brew up the coffee, bring it up to her. So we're sitting in bed one Sunday morning in 2008, I guess it was, and she's sipping on coffee and she says, you know, looking back at life, we've been fortunate. So there's a couple dollars in the bank. We have our good health. We should be doing more than what we're doing. Well, we were giving to the church and United Way and this and that. But she said, no, she's been worried about the environment long before most people started to even think about it. So she says, we should do something about the environment. What can we do? Let's plant trees. So trees are part of the solution. Of course, not the whole solution, but it's a part of the solution. So my contribution was to say, I agree with that. Let's do it properly. So we formed a company with a friendly lawyer. We applied and got our tax-exempt status. That means 501c3, if you know what that means. So if you donate, it's tax deductible to you if that's how you do your tax returns. By the way, today is tax return day. So don't forget that. So we got started. We actually found out of a way to propagate trees in large numbers. So that really is what made all this possible. I'll show you what a breadfruit is. Right now, Mary is just here for decoration, but she will talk. This is a ceramic model of a breadfruit. This is about the size of a typical breadfruit. Sometimes they're larger, sometimes they're smaller. These are tropical trees. So where we're planting trees is in poorer countries, developing countries, all around the tropical region. So surprisingly, where they have a year-round growing season, that's where there's a lot of hunger, a lot of malnutrition. Sometimes their governments are just not well organized. Sometimes there's disturbances, civil disturbances, wars, horrible things happening. So there's a lot of hunger and malnutrition. So when we got started, we picked the breadfruit tree. We'll talk about why that's a good idea. But we also were smart enough at the beginning, because way back then, there was a lot of climate skeptics. Even today, there are people who don't think that the climate is changing, despite us putting tons of carbon dioxide into the air every minute of the day. still some skeptics. So what we do, we don't talk about planting trees for the benefit of the environment. We say we're planting trees, fruit trees, to feed people. Everybody understands hunger and malnutrition. You've seen pictures of these places in Africa, elsewhere, where children are starving. We've actually seen a little girl in Haiti whose eyes were opaque. She couldn't see anything. Why? She didn't have enough vitamin A in her diet. One mango a week, and she would have perfect vision. So there's a real need. So anyway, we discovered that in the process of planting trees, trees that bear fruit, fruit that can be eaten, fruit that can be sold, we're also creating jobs. There's economic benefit in the communities, Haiti, Africa, all the places that we work. There's community benefit. And so the kids get food for breakfast. They learn their reading and writing a lot better with a little breakfast in their tummies. Feeding, creating jobs, economic value, and benefiting the environment. We pick breadfruit. We grew up in Jamaica. This is my high school sweetheart. Working out so far. But because we're familiar with breadfruit, we knew the benefits of breadfruit. So it's a big fruit. It's like a potato. It's starchy inside. You have to cook it before you eat it. Typically, you wouldn't eat it raw. Otherwise, you wouldn't digest it properly. But it has all kinds of nutrition. It's got protein even. It's got fiber, vitamin C, all kinds of minerals. So it's highly nutritious. If you ate breadfruit alone, that would almost be a fully balanced diet. The trees are robust. The trees are resistant to pests and funguses and bad things like that. And so once you plant the tree, you don't have to replant it every year like you might have to do with wheat or corn or rice or other grains. So it's a very stable, predictable food supply. The trees are abundant. You can get half a ton of food from a tree in a year. That's what we do. With that, we'll give a little bit of background with the video, if that sounds okay, and then we'll go to Mary.
An organization in Northfield is making a difference in the lives of people living in 22 countries.
And as Suzanne Lemonnier shows us, they're doing it one plant at a time.
It has complex carbohydrates, amino acids, magnesium, potassium.
Mary McLaughlin talks about the nutritional benefits of breadfruit. The retired artist who once created enamel-painted boxes for the White House and her retired financial engineer husband, Mike McLaughlin, co-founded Northfield-based Trees That Feed Foundation in 2008. Mary and Mike were born and educated in Jamaica. When they retired, they wanted to dedicate their lives to giving back to others in their homeland.
I knew that breadfruit trees could feed people, create jobs, and help the environment.
I take this one here.
This is video from a recent trip to Jamaica where a coalition from Uganda, Belize, and Haiti arrived in the country to learn how to cultivate breadfruit and bring the knowledge back to their homelands.
They can preserve the fruit, to dry it, keep it for a long shelf life, turn it into other baked products as well.
The nonprofit's mission is carried out in the Caribbean, Central America, and Africa. With their partners, more than 350,000 fruit trees have been planted in 22 countries.
We have a bakery.
I spoke to one of their partners in Haiti, Pierre Moise Louis. Louis started planting breadfruit in his community, Jérémie, in southern Haiti in 2012. Now, 12 years later, he runs a nursery and bakery. He uses a solar energy dryer created by the foundation and Northwestern to dehydrate breadfruit to create flour. The organization has even received the Make It Better Philanthropy Award in the environment category. Louis also teaches women through empowerment workshops to help them become financially independent through selling nutritional biscuits made from breadfruit flour.
It was something very important for the community because they found a place to sell their breadfruit, and also they can get money to pay school for. It is like an income, to feed the children, everything.
Previously, they would earn $1 or $2 a day, and they're quintuple their income.
Through the trees that have been planted to date, more than 500 million meals are provided for school children each year. Since 2014, the organization has also given out 10,000 of these educational coloring books. And the message inside, really has an important purpose.
Now the student can then become the teacher to their parents and siblings at home. And it's called Plant a Tree and Good Things Happen.
Trees That Feed Foundation, transforming communities and lives, one tree at a time. In Northfield, Suzanne Lemignot, CBS News, Chicago.
To learn more about Trees That Feed Foundation and how you can help their mission, log on to our website at cbschicago.com.
I was a geologist, so I understand the way our planet works, how our systems work. I've studied the ice ages, and I've always wondered if we as humans could damage our environment. And yes, we can if we put too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Because what carbon dioxide does in the atmosphere is it forms a blanket. So it stops the heat escaping into the outer atmosphere. And with our industrialization of our planet, we have created more of this blanket around our planet. You go back to photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is, go back to your 5th grade or 4th grade where you learned about photosynthesis. What trees do and plants do is they do the opposite of us. We breathe in oxygen and we give out carbon dioxide. Plants take in carbon dioxide and they give out oxygen. I'm sure you all learned this in your early years of education. So our premise is if we plant more trees around the planet, all of those trees will be helping to take in the carbon dioxide and give us oxygen. It's easy, it's a no-brainer. So I always knew I wanted to plant trees. And as Mike said, this was the idea, and he said, if we're going to plant trees, do fruit trees. So I'm going to repeat a lot of what Mike says just for emphasis. And so I thought if more humans could eat more food from trees, then that will help our planet in many ways. It will give us an extra food supply. It will mean when you plant a tree, all you have to do is harvest. Every year, or twice a year, you just pick your crop, you maintain your trees. If you're growing crops, then you need your tractors that give off carbon dioxide. You need more chemical fertilizer. So let's do this shift, if we can, ever so slowly to food from trees. Now, food from trees in temperate countries where we live tend to be desserts or nuts. You can't live on them, but you can live on breadfruit. Now, how many of you have ever heard of breadfruit? Let's see a show of hands. Okay. How many of you have seen Mutiny on the Bounty? Okay. And that's a story of breadfruit. And should I stop? Okay.
She's still working.
When the British explorers were exploring the planet, Captain Cook, he discovered Australia, he discovered Hawaii. He also stopped in Tahiti. And when he stopped in Tahiti, he was astonished because he found that they didn't grow cassava or wheat or corn. They picked breadfruit, and that was their basic carbohydrates. And the Tahitians lived a very happy life. All they did was they picked their breadfruit and they caught their fish and they had a very healthy diet. So Captain Cook then sailed back to Britain and he met the botanists at Kew Gardens and he told them about this wonderful plant. He even had artists on board his ship. And these artists drew pictures of breadfruit. And these are all in the British Museum, the early discovery of breadfruit. So what did the British government do? They thought this is a way of feeding the poorest people on the planet. So they then got a ship built, and this ship was specially equipped. It had huge pots that were secured to the bow of the ship, the inside bow of the ship, where they had good pots, where they could sail the ship, the Bounty, to Tahiti, get breadfruit plants on the ship, and take an entire year to sail back to the Caribbean to plant these plants. Well, the problem with this first voyage was that they stayed too long in Tahiti, and all the sailors fell in love with the beautiful Tahitian maidens. So when they left Tahiti a few days out, the sailors decided, hey, we'd rather go back to our sweethearts in Tahiti. So what did they do? They mutinied. They threw all the plants overseas. They took Captain Bligh, they put him in a lifeboat with his officers, and they sailed off to Tahiti. They got their sweethearts, and then they ended up in the Pitcairn Islands, where they lived for generations. And the leader of the mutineers was called Mr. Christian. When you go to Pitcairn Island today, half the population is called Christian. Anyway, the British government, Captain Bligh was brought back safely. He rowed his rowboat for 1,000 miles. He ended up in an island called Timor, where it was then a French colonial island. They took him back to England. And what did they do? They built another ship. He went back to Tahiti, and this time he only stayed 6 weeks. He got all the plants he needed, potted them up, and sailed. And it took him an entire year. He had sailed through the Cape of Good Hope, and he ended up in a tiny island in the Caribbean called St. Vincent. And from there, those breadfruit trees were then planted in the rest of the Caribbean. And it was in 1790 that the plants were brought to the Caribbean. And since then, people in the Caribbean have embraced breadfruit. But there are not enough trees because the trees are hard to propagate. So when Mike and I got the idea to do this, first thing we did was we visited 2 places. We visited Jamaica, and we spoke to the Jamaican government, and we said, we have this idea. If we do this, will you be on board? And their answer was yes. They said, if you can bring the plants, we will get them to farmers because we need these trees. And then we traveled to Hawaii to visit a center of excellence for breadfruit, because breadfruit's originally a Pacific tree. And we visited the National Tropical Botanical Gardens, where they have the world's expert on breadfruit, because we wanted to be experts. So then we started to grow the plants in greenhouses in Europe and California. We could grow tiny breadfruit trees in a similar way to how you see impatiens, like at Home Depot when you go to buy them, tiny little plants. So we buy plants that size, and we ship them all over the world where they can grow. We've been doing this since 2009, and so far we've planted close to, not quite, but close to 500,000 trees. Now, each tree, I'll tell you the benefit of each tree. Each tree will give you between 200 and 300 plants, fruit. Each fruit weighs about 4 pounds. When you roast it, it's just like a rounded loaf of bread. It's delicious. I grew up eating it. So it's equivalent of bread. So if a family has a tree, they're going to get a lot of fruit. But the fruit bears in a very short bearing season, which means that there's a lot that you can't eat. It's too much. So Mike decided he would develop a solar dehydrator. So he goes to Northwestern, and Northwestern engineering students volunteer, and they work with Mike, and they develop a solar dehydrator. It doesn't need solar cells. It's passive. It's ingeniously designed, and a farmer can take all their excess breadfruit and they can shred it. And you're going to see pictures of this in a little, if we can get that video to work, the second video. And you're going to see that video. So listen to this. You'll see them shredding the breadfruit, like grating it. You will see them drying it in the solar dehydrator and grinding it into flour. And this is what we do. So we plant trees. We now grow our trees. We try to grow them all locally in all the countries we have started in. So we buy those trees. We get them to either households to plant in their backyards or farmers to plant in their farms. When there's excess fruit, it's dried, ground into flour, and now you have your own homegrown food supply all year. So if this premise works, in the areas where we have trees growing, there should be much less hunger. And imagine if a poor mother, has a breadfruit tree. We also plant other trees, avocados, mangoes, and other trees. her children never have to go hungry. If that mother has excess, then she can sell it to the market. She can sell it to a bakery. And in Haiti, we have used that excess breadfruit, and we started feeding children in schools a porridge. So children go to school and they're hungry, they get a bowl of breadfruit porridge made with breadfruit flour. But then we worked together and we thought, let's take it to the next step. Let's get commercial bakeries to start to use it. So imagine a commercial bakery in Haiti is nothing more than a pizza oven. Okay. And we said to them, why don't you start using this to make your traditional breads? So Haiti started to do that. And we're at a point now where the United Nations and the World Food Program has gotten involved. We don't work with them, we work in parallel with them. They have seen what we have done, and now they have gone in and they are buying this year, they have committed to buy 80 tons of breadfruit flour, all from small little processors. Now, these processors they have tiny facilities all over Haiti. But what this means is a country that's in such dire straits. A poor rural processor and farmer now has an income, because what these countries need are jobs. And if you can have economic development around the trees, then there's jobs, there's income, and we're successfully growing trees. It means Haiti, they're notorious for cutting the trees down for firewood. But if the trees become money trees, they're not going to cut them down because they're income generating. So we see these pockets in Haiti, and we're doing it in Uganda and in Ghana and in Jamaica. We have tiny processing centers all centered around the trees. So the trees are successful in being grown. The processors have money. And instead of people just sitting down with nothing to do and no future and children being hungry, it addresses all of these problems. So that's what we're doing. And I think I have told our story in a nutshell. I'm sure I've forgotten stuff. And I'd like to show you that second video. So if we can cue that up and have that going. This was done to us totally unsolicited. This was done by a Haitian actress who happened to be friends with one of the people at the UN. And he took her to visit one of these factories. And she made this video in English. She's Haitian and sent it to us. And I think it shows exactly what we do in Haiti. So I think we're good to go.
Today, I have the chance to visit a business that is doing something incredible, transforming breadfruit into flour in a way that is sustainable and community-driven. The process starts by carefully washing the breadfruit, cutting it into quarters, removing the core, overripe parts, and then peeling the skin. Next, the fruit is shredded into smaller pieces and laid out to dry in a solar-powered dryer. A simple but powerful example of sustainable innovation. After a few days in the sun, the breadfruit is ready for transformation. Once dry, the pieces go into this machine, and just like that, we have breadfruit flour, a nutritious, locally made product with a real impact. This initiative creates jobs, empowers communities to build from their own resources, encourages local production, and supports tree planting.
Okay, that was a video. She just took the video and sent it to us as a gift. And she said, thanks for helping my country. So I'm going to let Mike continue because he was listening and he knows everything I forgot to say.
Well, that was good. I wanted to give a little bit more rounded picture of the things that we do. And so planting trees. So we found ways to propagate them by tissue culture so we could get thousands at a time. So the first order that we placed back in 2008, I think it was, we said, all right, we want to order 1,000 trees. And so we placed an order with a nursery, professional nursery in California. We didn't hear anything for a while. Finally, the phone rings. They've got the order. They're ready to fill the order. So Mary is talking on the phone, and I'm prompting her, whispering from behind. I say, make sure that they have the full order ready. And so Mary says, well, how many of these little seedlings do you have ready? And they said, oh, we have all 20,000 for you. Well, we wanted 1,000. We didn't have budget for 20,000. We didn't know what to do. Anyway, we took 2,000, and that was the beginning. So the fact that we could get a lot of trees propagated in quantity at a modest price, that's what got us going. As time went by, we found that it was also very important and very valuable to have local nurseries. So we encouraged the local people, local nurseries. We're in 22 countries. So all over Central America, Caribbean, Africa. We want each of those locally to be able to propagate their own trees, their own fruit trees. Fruit trees are typically harder to propagate than timber trees. So a lot of times you can't just plant a seed and get a new fruit tree. You might get something that's not a very good variety. So it's important to know the correct way to propagate, and that's another whole seminar as to how to do that. But so we want to buy locally as well. So it's buying of trees locally helps their economy as opposed to buying them from California. So we do both depending on the logistics. So we plant trees. You can't just give somebody a tree because they think they know what to do. So you dig a hole and you put the tree in there. There's a lot more to it than that. So training and education is a big part of what we do. So we, I'm a city boy. I'm teaching farmers how to dig a hole that's big enough and appropriate for the size tree so that that tree has a chance to survive. So a few extra minutes of digging a bigger hole and your tree bears fruit 1 year earlier. That's a year less that you're going to wait. So we actually have to teach people how to plant a tree. So what we do is we want to encourage the farmer to sell his fruit. The video described how the fruit is processed into a finished product. So we want to help entrepreneurs like this young lady to set up a business. So she'll buy the fruit, grind it, process it, package it, sell it. So she's or he is adding value, and now they're making money as well. Then what we do to help the entrepreneur get started, we say, here's what we'll do. We'll give you the equipment, not super expensive, but $1,000 to $2,000 worth of equipment. We'll give you the equipment. When you set up your business, we'll be your first customer. So we're going to buy the food product that you produce. What do we do with that? Well, it's in Haiti or it's in Uganda or somewhere. We give it away to schools. So it's a great meal for school children. There's stories that bring tears to your eyes when you hear about the little kids that have to show up at school. And breakfast has been a half a cup of bush tea. Well, now they're getting a bowl of warm porridge, a hot cereal made from breadfruit flour. Do they learn their math better after having a breakfast? You bet that they do. So now we're feeding the children. So we have a great relationship with the teachers, the principals, and we found out that these little kids, like in Haiti, a household, you know how many books the typical household in Haiti owns? None. They don't own a single book. So we printed a book. It's over here. Natasha, pass me one of those just real quick. And so, again, Mary comes up with ideas, okay? And every one of our ideas is totally impractical. So don't do it. It'll never work. And then it's a huge success. So now here's a school book, and there's activities in here. You color in the pictures. There's 40 pages. So there's a picture for every week of the school year. We have a teacher's training manual. They teach the children, they color them in, they do an exercise. What's the name of this book? Plant a tree and good things happen. It's teaching little kids ages 5 to 10, let's say, about the benefits of planting fruit trees, the environmental benefits, the economic benefits, the nutrition benefits. An intangible benefit that's terribly important here is when the entrepreneur, the farmer, the family, the community begins to feel independent. They're no longer waiting for a handout. They're running their own business. They're making a profit. You have no idea the dignity, the optimism, the hope that this delivers. It's low technology stuff, All right. But so we're teaching the kids, when the kids grow up, the trees will have grown up as well. And the community is much more successful. So those are kind of the programs, all of which are kind of integrated. The idea is to get value out of the tree so that the tree stays alive, and then it brings all the environmental benefits to the community and to the world.
Yeah, and the book is something I feel so strongly about. And Judy Osgood's here. She worked on the book, Judy, and then there's Nancy Kurz. Nancy is also a member of your organization. I don't know if you know Nancy. She and Judy and I worked on this book together, and we have it translated into maybe about 10 languages. You know, we have it in some languages in Indonesia and Swahili, and of course, Spanish and English and Haitian Creole. And these children get to have this book as they color the book and they learn their lessons. This book goes home with them. So then they become the teacher to their parents and their community on the value of trees. And we know this planet needs trees. And we know this planet needs people who can stay in their country and have a decent living. We know that's important, and we know we want children to learn. So I think Trees That Feed fits all of those boxes. And we're neighbors of yours. We're right across the train tracks. That's where we are. We're usually there. We welcome people to visit. We work with many other local organizations. We have from Bright Hope, we have Henry. He came to see us at the back. We're doing work with them. We've planted trees with them in Kenya, and we hope to plant trees with them in Haiti. They do work there. So we work with many different organizations, and we're proud of working with the United Nations, because when the big guys pay attention to you, you know you're doing something right. So that's it.
Any questions? We've covered it all. Jill, we've covered it all. We're good.
First of all, could you tell us what happens with the seeds at the core that you're taking out? Are those also used to help replant trees? Because I saw when in the harvesting process, you're using the outside of the seed pod. And
so here's the breadfruit, and to process it, there's two ways. One is with the skin, and the other is without. Some people prefer it without. I personally think it's better to process it with the skin, provided it's clean, because you're getting more nutrition and more fiber. There is a core. So if you peel off the skin, you put that off to the side. There is a core that's more filled with latex, not as nutritious, and could get moldy. You typically either throw that away or you use it as organic fertilizer. And so we've done a study. So we recruited students from the College of Agriculture in Jamaica. We had them for 2 years. Every 2 weeks, they would go out. We selected a number of trees to survey, and they counted the fruit on each tree. So we know exactly the bearing season. And so we've brought a lot of information really to the world. So we know the kind of yield. But where I was going, a few of the trees in that study had the benefit of organic fertilizer. The average tree overall produced 154 fruit per year in 2 bearing seasons. The few trees that had organic fertilizer produced 290 fruit per year, almost double. So we very much encourage that. Banana skins, banana peels. So if you've peeled the fruit, just throw that around the roots of the tree. If you got chickens, all the better. Have the chickens wander around, and they're fertilizing, and the tree processes all that. Mary talked about the magic of photosynthesis. And so you're getting all these benefits. The sunlight, that's free. The air, that's free. Under the nutrients under the soil, that's really kind of free. You help it a little with the organic fertilizer, and now you have a double of the yield.
But you asked about seeds. Breadfruit seedless. Think of a banana. Humans have taken bananas through millennium, and they become seedless. It's the same thing with breadfruit. They don't have many viable seeds. So you can't grow a tree, breadfruit tree from a breadfruit seed. You have to grow it from roots or stem cuttings. So that's why it's hard to propagate. Yes?
How long after you plant the seedling do you get fruit? Does it become fruit bearing?
Great question. The typical answer is 3 years, but it depends on the soil and it depends on how well you've prepared the hole. And so we actually visited the Bahamas last December, and yes, it was fun, but it actually was visits to farms. And we saw one person, a woman farmer, we love women farmers, and her tree was bearing after 1.5 years. The first fruit, no, not a full abundant yield, but the first couple of fruit. And so after 2.5 years, she got 100 fruit off the tree. So that was unusually quick. Also, the Bahamas has sandy soil. The breadfruit trees like sandy soil rather than a heavy kind of clay. So that was optimum, but typically we say 3 or 4 years, and then you get full yield after about 7 years. What we do, a farmer can't wait. You can't wait 3 years for your next meal, right? So we talk to them. Typically, they already have other crops, but we encourage intercropping or agroforestry. So they're planting vegetables, for example, in between the trees. When the trees are fully leafed out, then you can't plant much under them. But while you're waiting, you have other crops.
I have 2 questions. One is with the chaos and the gangs in Haiti, how are you able to operate? And secondly, is there any future anywhere in the United States for what you are doing?
I'll do the first question, you do the second. The gangs in Haiti are practically in control of all the major cities. There's parts of Port-au-Prince, the capital, that are not under gang control yet. So it's terrible. There's no functioning government. The gangs are horrible and they kidnap. I mean, there's horrible crimes there. Where we have chosen to operate is much more rural. So the people that we are working with, the farms, the entrepreneurs, are way outside of the city. The gangs, what they've done by kind of taking over Port-au-Prince, have divided the country into 2. So north of the city, there's a lot of communities that are functioning normally. South and west, there's a lot of communities that are functioning normally. You just can't go through the city. So we have little centers of activity where there's trees being planted, entrepreneurs starting businesses, and successful communities.
Second question, which is in the United States. Breadfruit can grow in Florida, and we've planted a lot of breadfruit trees in the Keys. There's a Big Pine Key. There's a place called Grummer Grove. If you ever go to the Keys, you visit them. They have breadfruit trees growing. They sell their breadfruit to local restaurants, and they're about to build a distillery to make breadfruit vodka. But we find that as the climate warms, we're able to plant breadfruit trees further north. In fact, next week we're going to Orlando, and Disney World has a breadfruit tree in Epcot. So we're going to go see this breadfruit tree in Epcot. And it's a very mature tree, so we know it grows there. But a frost will kill breadfruit. So we have to be careful. We try to plant breadfruit trees no further north than Fort Lauderdale.
I have 4 questions. Ever since I was a little kid, I got in trouble with that, but I hope this is going to be appropriate. Before I ask you one of those 4 questions, I just want to thank you for an absolutely wonderful presentation and an observation. You're working under tremendous challenges of a building under construction and technology that is biting us in the butt. But my guess is that this is minor to some of the problems that you've had to face to do what you do. So I want to thank you because everybody here has learned a lot through what you've done, and you put up with this problems that we're having, but that's unavoidable, I'm afraid.
These are tiny problems.
Right. A couple quick questions. Number 1, could we see a plant? Could we see a breadfruit in the Botanic Gardens?
Yes, the greenhouse at Chicago, at the Chicago Botanic Gardens has a breadfruit tree.
What about up here? You know,
Up here where?
the Chicago, the Botanic
where they
Gardens.
have one.
Okay, that is the Chicago Botanic Garden.
Yes. Garfield Conservatory has one. And the Oak Park Conservatory has one. Yeah, so and if you come over to our office, Trees That Feed, right across the train tracks, we have one.
Okay, could I buy a breadfruit somewhere here in Chicagoland?
Breadfruit doesn't travel well. It has a shelf life that's shorter than a banana. And we really are focused on sustainably feeding people. Breadfruit flour is available, and there's a sample of breadfruit flour over there, available online. This is made in a factory in Puerto Rico, a fabulous state-of-the-art factory. I have visited her factory and her farms. I have never heard as many birds singing on a farm as I have on her organic farm. And she makes breadfruit flour. She is hoping to get into Whole Foods, but she sells online and she's trying to break into the US market. But you know, this is an emerging food source. I bet none of you have heard of breadfruit flour before. But if she's a female farmer, Puerto Rican, and she's a biochemist. So she does everything systematically and correctly. If her product can become well known in the United States, then others will follow and we'll get more trees planted.
Two more questions. You talked about cooperation you received from another nation, and you talked about going to Northwestern and getting cooperation there. Without getting into the politics of it, we're in a different environment here in America with respect to support for the dollars being spent. Are you at risk in any way with regard to the cooperation that you might receive from our government and from universities who are now looking under pressure to have some of their research be not having the dollars needed? Is this any risk?
Well, we've never received money from USAID. I think the United Nations is under risk of having their budget cut. We'll have to see. And we don't receive any money from universities. We assist universities with their research programs. So that may happen. I'm sure it will happen. But we rely on generosity of local people. We have a lot of people who give us a little bit of money at a time. And we don't think that will impact us.
That gets to our last question. I mean, I don't think you're in this to make millions of dollars, but I do think you're helping millions of people, and that seems to be your goal. How can we help you as seniors and an organization or as individuals?
Well, you can plant a tree in honor of somebody you care about. We have an easily accessible website. You can go if somebody has a birthday and they don't need another box of chocolates. You can plant a tree. You can become a tree parent or a tree sponsor. Natasha knows about this. Natasha, talk about that.
So you all know Earth Day is coming on April 22nd. And so this is Earth Month. And so we have a special opportunity to become a tree parent. So a breadfruit tree generally costs about $15 to plant it, to care for it for a year, because that is the most essential time for that tree. And so if you donate $15, you're planting one tree, you have one tree baby, a breadfruit tree. And we'll be able to show you where it is and keep in touch with you over time. So I welcome you to come in and talk to me up here about how to be a tree parent and plant trees with us for Earth Month.
And I forgot to tell you, you can see the trees from your home computer. So we'll send you the link. It's called map@treetracker.org. You go on that app and you can see where our trees are planted. You can see who planted them, and where they're planted, and what the tree looks like when it was planted.
We got a question.
How many people are in your organization?
Stand up, the four of us. And we have hundreds of volunteers in country. They can't contribute money, but they can contribute time. Natasha just got offered by one of the partners we work with. They offered to pay her ticket to go to Uganda. We have a Ugandan partner who we work with. He volunteers for us. He said to Natasha, I want you to come and stay in my home with my wife and daughter. And she visited Uganda. She saw all the trees and she stayed at his home. I think that's a wonderful thing.
I think there's a couple more questions.
Wait, we want to give you a mic so everyone can hear your question. Instead of the roof.
You talked about the flour that you get from fruit, but what is the finished product, the baked product like? And what kind of variety of things can you do with the flour?
Okay, there's a package over there so you can see the nutrition information on that. And it's gluten-free, so you can't make bread with it. It makes wonderful waffles and pancakes and cakes. And you can then mix it, you can blend it, but it's gluten-free. So if you use rice flour or other gluten-free flours, it's very comparable. And there's a package over there.
The film that we did get to see, it looked like it was on CBS Chicago. Have you ever tried, have you asked CBS Sunday Morning to do this story? I've never heard of this, and I think most of us have not heard of it. The awareness.
That would be one way that this group can help us. Of course, we'll be happy to take your money online because we are a nonprofit. We don't make profit. We don't sell anything, but donations are what keep us going. So that's one way to help. But if you have contacts within the media at large, then it helps to spread our word.
Your mic is off.
It's not. It's nobody can hear you.
Okay, so you can help us with press. You know, we're what, 6 degrees of separation? What we really need is we need more people to learn about what we do so we can have copycats or we can have other people join us. As Mike says, we function, we spend our money like an egg dropper. We're not a huge organization. We don't have a lot of money, but we spend our dollars very carefully. So if we had more partners, more people to work with us, that would help. So help us spread the word. That's very important. Speaking engagements.
There's just one question here. Can you repeat the website of how to become a plant parent again, a tree parent?
treesthatfeed.org. treesthatfeed.org. We monitor that all the time. Natasha keeps it up to date. There's a lot of information there.
One more time.
treesthatfeed.org. Trees That Feed. That's one word, treesthatfeed.org. We have a few business cards up at the front as well. So grab those and you'll see the information, or take a picture with your phone. Oh.
Do you have enough breadfruit to bring to the farm?
The trees live for about 100 years. Yeah, and they don't make good lumber. So they're not liable to be cut down. But when we first went to Uganda, the Ugandans approached us and said, there's 2 breadfruit trees that are here. And we traced them back to when they were planted in Uganda. And we know they were planted almost 100 years ago. And last year, they were able to harvest 500 fruit from each tree.
I have a question over here.
Yes?
Do you have enough product to bring to the farmers markets here in Northfield?
Because we are a non-for-profit, we're not selling the product. We plant the trees. But if the Puerto Ricans ever want to come and expose their product, we will do that. Usually we want to feed people in their own country.
The short answer is no, we don't have enough. But we are working to build the capacity.
Folks, let's give them another big hand and come up to the table and get more information. It's a wonderful idea.
Thank you.
One more comment, please.
I'm Susan Gaines Gatto. Mary and Mike, we've known them for 35 years. I was the one that brought them here. I want to say that they are two of the most amazing people on our planet in many, many, many ways. But I do have to say that some people, they nix Facebook, but I was the one that encouraged Mary to join Facebook. And one of the ways I keep in touch with them every single day is I'm a part of their Facebook.com, group. Family, yes, and all the videos that I have seen, and I encouraged Mary to do a couple of them here, are every day I can see them, and the comments are from all over the world. And Mary and I started knowing each other being Harper School moms when our kids were in the cafeteria, and my son said, "Mom, Mrs. McLaughlin was amazing. She was the first person that taught us about recycling. And she had this awesome table, and we could go and we could learn and learn and learn." So to make another touching story, we started a group called Moms of Sons, because I started a Cub Scout group. Okay. But Mary had a daughter, actually 2 daughters only, but we liked her so much that we started saying our club was Mothers of Sons and Daughters, because we wanted to include Mary. And I mean to tell you, I could go on for hours about the McLaughlins. They are globally impressive, amazing people. There are groups of people that run towards their airplane as it lands in Jamaica. I mean, think about that. These people are movers and shakers. One of her best friends is Hillary Clinton. And Mary had another. Okay. But there's another whole way of saying, gosh, I now know neighbors that I never realized were movers and shakers all around the world. They live in Winnetka, and their business is a block away from here. It's incredible that we have them here today. And the best thing you can do is spread the word to your community people. If you're a member of a garden club, if you have a group of people in your church. They did a church last week, I think it was in downtown Chicago, and it was remarkable what went on there. Why did I know that? Because I'm their Facebook friend. So again, thank you so much for listening. And Bob Dauber, he's the one that we wrote down our idea and he ran with it. So this place is amazing.
Dick? Yeah, thank you. Listen, just a comment on the noise has been a bit disruptive. I took the liberty, I talked to Mary Stackman. We expect this week, 2 weeks or at most, but next week they'll probably be in a different part of the building and should not be as disruptive. So apologies to our speakers in the audience today. We thank you for the courtesy of just kind of doing our best with this very important presentation today, but we hope this will be a one-off and not be repeated next week. Okay.